Welcome to the Philbrook Football Podcast. It is for week 17, the last week of the regular season. I am joined by the always joins me guy, Doofus McGoofus. Also Cameron.
Although we're not together today. We are unfortunately we had a lot of different plans going on, so we're actually doing this recording in separate houses, but that's okay. We found a way to make it work as usual.
Yep, I am about an hour away from him currently, so I didn't want to make him drive all the way out here just to sit down and talk about football for an hour and a half if I can just find my own way to do it. So you'll notice that his audio does not sound quite as polished and pristine as mine. But that is because of our current situation and him not being able to use one of the microphones that we use. So
my audio is essentially going to sound like a talk show guest. Like, I just have this feeling it's going to be like I'm calling in, and being like, this is Adam Pereira from New York calling in to let us know how blah blah blah. That's
yeah.
going to be me in this video.
As long as you don't scream and yell, the audio should be fine. So I can't.
Yeah, it should be fine.
Yeah.
So I don't plan on screaming or yelling.
Further ado, if you want to go ahead and get them tasty scores out and go over that stuff.
All right, yeah, let's get it going. We had a couple of games on Saturday. Game with the Colts and the Ravens. The Ravens won 23-16. And the Vikings and the Packers got shut out. The Vikings won 16-0. On Christmas Eve, we had the Seahawks going against the Cowboys. They won 21-12, eliminating the Cowboys from the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
The Buccaneers and the Panthers played 19-22. Panthers win. The Browns and the Bears came into a matchup. The Bears won 20-3, completing their sweep of the AFC North. They're AFC North champions this year, the Bears. The Lions somehow dropped a game against their other Cat Bros, 26-17. That eliminates the Lions from the playoffs, I believe.
Yeah.
They're done. Chiefs beat the Dolphins 29-13. Patriots beat the Bills 37-16. The Saints beat the Falcons 23-13. Chargers 14-7 against the Jets. The Rams 27-23 in a great game against the Titans. The Redskins beat up on the Broncos 27-11. The 49ers coming out and scoring 44 points against the Jags' #1 defense. Blake Bortles brings them to a respectable score in garbage time, as he usually does. So 33-44 was the final score in that one. Yeah, but garbage time, he's the GOAT.
Yep.
So then the last game, Giants against the Cardinals. Giants scored 0 points. Cardinals scored 23 points, so they win, of course. And then on Monday, Christmas, the Steelers wasted on the Texans 34-6. And the Eagles edged out the Raiders 19-10. And that was all the games. There wasn't a Thursday game, obviously, because of the 2 Saturday games. But yeah, those are the scores this week. Eagles won another game without Carson Wentz. The Giants, with Eli Manning, have still not won a game since he was benched. Mm-hmm. And the Rams have clinched the NFC West. There's a lot of stuff that happened, obviously. We're getting towards the end of the regular season, so there's a lot of finality coming to different scenarios, and a lot of teams have already clinched their spots. A few teams, the Kansas City Chiefs, for example, no matter what happens this Week 17 matchup, they can't move up or down. So they're, of course, resting all of their starters. And we'll get a chance to see Patrick Mahomes, their number 10 pick, their number 10, or I'm sorry, the number 10 pick out of Texas Tech. It was their 10th. It was the 10th pick overall. Excuse me. We'll get a chance to see him and what he can do. A couple other teams are going to be sitting some guys. So, unfortunately, if you're in a league like us, fantasy-wise, that does championships through Week 17, some of your rosters are going to be destroyed. And that is unfortunate for some, fortunate for others. It's fortunate for Isaiah because it sounds like Todd Gurley is going to be sitting out this game.
Thank God. He put up 51 against me last week, basically ending my season. So that's not very fun. I'm currently down by about 70 points in the championship, but the person I'm going against, he had Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and Todd Gurley, and all three of them will not play this week. So I am hoping that I can pull off a miracle with my team and get it done. So, yeah. Yeah,
it would take a miracle. Luckily for your opponent, Gurley did play last week to give him that solid lead.
Yeah.
But either way, it seems pretty common that Gurley has been on a lot of championship teams. I've been reading across some different message boards and stuff like that. A lot of championship teams have Todd Gurley, and I think it was just the amount of value he provided, being that he was going in the late first to the second round. And, I mean, if you can get an elite guy before him and have Todd Gurley, I mean, that's pretty great value. So,
when he, there's even some leagues where people didn't draft him till like third or fourth round. That's how bad they thought he was going to be. And like,
that's crazy to me.
That's crazy to me too. I mean, that's just nuts that you would wait that long to draft Todd Gurley. It's I don't know what the deal was that early on, but the talent's there. So, yeah, it's crazy to think that some people got him that late, getting two elite players before him. So,
yeah, but I mean, he's definitely been MVP of this fantasy season. Can't really replace that. So, if you're a fantasy owner with Todd Gurley in your lineup, and you have a Week 17 matchup, I would, basically go with anybody else available. But I wouldn't necessarily go with whoever's supposed to be the handcuff for the Rams. I guess it would be Malcolm Brown. But
yeah.
He hasn't seen the field very much, obviously, this year because Todd Gurley has been straight annihilating everyone. There really isn't a need to take him out of the game. So I would go with maybe somebody who is more proven, will provide you a more stable floor, or if you're down big, go with a guy who could have some big potential. I mean, I know there's some guys out there on the waiver wire that have some boom potential. Guys like, Peyton Barber. I mean, he's playing against New Orleans. He has a tough matchup. He's provided a pretty good floor this year. Sharkandrick West for the Kansas City. He's more of a pass catching back most of the time. So I guess Akeem Hunt will get most of the regular carries, but I would expect West to get a lot of work in this game.
I would trust West more just because of his passing down work and the fact that Akeem Hunt already had like an injury in the first place. So who even knows how much he would be able to play in that regard. Like my advice is, you want guys that have volume at this point. Excuse me, because so many players are out that you just need someone that's going to get touches. So even a guy like, I'd say like Mike Davis for Seattle, like he'll get touches in this game and Seattle needs to win this game. So they're going to be playing as hard as they can. They're not going to put anyone, bench anyone at halftime if they're blowing Arizona out or something. Like they are going to play their players the whole time because they need this win. So looking at teams like that, or, the Packers, who don't even have enough running backs to like bench anyone. So like Jamal Williams will get a ton of volume because Aaron Jones won't be playing. And then I'm trying to think of anyone else that would be really good volume wise.
Yeah, I'm looking, and there's really, at least on our waivers, there's not really a lot available.
Christian McCaffrey is still a great pick because the Panthers want to win. If the Panthers win this week, that would, one, knock the Falcons out, assuming that Seattle beats Arizona. And two, if the Saints also lose, then they all of a sudden get the number 2 seed in the NFC, which is huge for them. So they're going to want to play as much as they can and try to secure that 2 seed. So really a lot of the NFC teams, you don't really have to worry too much about benched players unless you are like an Eagles. You have Eagles players on your team, because I don't know how many of their starters they're going to play. So we'll see what happens with that. But the Rams are really the only one that you have to worry about more, just because they are already locked into their spot. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting. I get having the players sit for week 17, especially if they're they have nothing to play for, as in they're already locked in, or it doesn't really matter what happens, that kind of thing.
Right.
So playoff teams do this. How come more regular NFL teams don't do this? Like the Browns or the Packers, why aren't they sending in their backups to maybe do some talent evaluation? It seems like most of these guys are going with their starters, where at this point in the season, it really only affects draft position. It doesn't really affect playoff seeding, because there's a lot of teams that are going to be out of the playoffs, or that are playing teams that aren't even in the playoffs, so they have no chance to play spoiler. I just wonder why more teams aren't doing a preseason type game where you put your starters out there for the first quarter, and then from there just evaluate whatever other talent you have. Some guys who haven't gotten snaps that often throughout the regular season due to an established veteran.
Mm-hmm.
It's just interesting to me.
Well, from what I understand, I think it's like a pride thing where they want to finish the season strong. They want to finish on a good note, even if they are not in playoff contention. They don't have anything really to play for, like you were saying. They still have that pride, and we still want to show that we're better, and especially because a lot of these Week 17 games are still divisional games. They want to go out and beat a division rival Week 17 and just be like, haha, we still got to win against you. So I think that's a big part of it, and also the fact that a lot of players are like not okay with sitting. They're like, no, do not sit me. Like if you told Russell Wilson, yeah, we're not going to play you, he'd be like, no, like I'm playing. It was just like with Eli Manning. It's like Eli Manning doesn't even want to play if he's going to get benched in the second half. He's just like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, he wants to be out there and finish the game with his team no matter what. So like, I think just so much of it is just the pride of both the players and sometimes the coaches too, that they just want to play they want to play their starters and get one last win before the season ends.
Yeah, I think Hugh Jackson is maybe looking for a win this week. Obviously, he's 0-15, but the Steelers will be still playing for a seeding position. They play the Browns, and the Patriots play the Jets. Oh, I guess their seeding doesn't really matter, huh? Well, I guess if the Patriots were to lose, and the Steelers were to win, they would have the number 1 seed, huh?
Yep. Yeah. So
yeah,
the Steelers are really going to try to win this game against the tough Browns. But honestly, it would be almost impossible at this point for the Patriots to lose to the Jets, just because of the fact that Bryce Petty is starting at quarterback, and he has never thrown multiple touchdowns in a game. He pretty much throws an interception, at least one, in every single game he plays. I just don't see the Patriots losing against the Jets, and I don't see the Steelers losing against the Browns. So I'm pretty sure the seeding's going to stay the same unless the Jets just go nuts or something.
Right. Yeah, I would guess the same thing, but you never know in the NFL, man. I mean, the Bears beat the Steelers earlier this year. I mean, the Bears are definitely much better than the Browns are. But that was a win nobody saw coming. So, I mean, you never
Right.
know. Maybe the Jets somehow. No, I don't know, man. I can't even think of a scenario in how they would possibly win that game. But you still never know. But definitely there are some teams that still have some stuff to play for. So they're not going to be resting their starters. But teams at the bottom, I mean, I wouldn't, regardless of whether you're playing for pride. I mean, what more pride can you have? Have another win on your losing season? Um, maybe pad your stats a little bit. I mean, there's not a lot of pride in Week 17 if you're not in the playoffs or even looking to be in the playoffs or even I don't know. It just seems silly to me.
Well, it might be a thing where the coach is just saying, look, we had a losing season, or in like Cleveland's case, it's like we haven't won a single game, so you haven't like earned the right to sit. You haven't won enough and done enough this season to really earn that right to just be able to sit out a game. It's one of those things where it's like, show me something, so I have something to look forward to next year. Like I think that might be part of it.
I guess I could see that, yeah. Um, yeah, there's a few teams that have already punched their tickets for the playoffs. In the AFC, obviously, New England and Pittsburgh are battling for that number one seed. Jacksonville has clinched their division, and Kansas City has also clinched their division. So those teams in the AFC are all decided, those four. Then
Wild
right
cards are
now we
still up
have
in the air, though.
right. Wild cards are definitely still up in the air. Baltimore this week, who are they playing against?
The
They
Bengals.
play against the Bengals. So they have, if they show up, they have a good chance of winning that game, which would put them at 10-6, and they would definitely lock in their playoff spot. They
Right.
control their own destiny. If they can win that game, they're in the playoffs with the 5 seed. And then from there, the 6 seed is definitely still up for grabs. It's between the Tennessee Titans, the LA Chargers, and Buffalo right now. But all three of those teams could get the 6 seed. My bet based on who they're all playing this week. Let's see. The
Bills play the Dolphins, the Titans play the Jaguars, and the Chargers play, I think, Oakland.
Yes. All of those games are actually well, I guess the Titans obviously have the hardest of these three. Wow, really? ESPN. The ESPN app has Tennessee by 3 points. How?
Well,
Oh, no, they don't.
Stomp them last
That's so
time.
weird.
Granted, that was
Really?
in like week 3.
I don't-
Yeah, they stomped the Jaguars the first time they played them. But I mean, that was earlier in the season before Mariota got hurt and all that. But I personally, out of all of those 3 games, I honestly think that the Bills have the best chance to snag that spot, just because like the
Really?
Dolphins are not like a great team, and the Bills beat them pretty hard last time that they played. So I really do feel like the Bills have a great shot to get that last spot. But it honestly, it might also just be the Chargers, just because Oakland's defense is pretty bad, and Oakland's offense is kind of a nightmare. But when I look at, like, what's the Chargers' weakness is defending the running game, and Oakland has been running the ball more. So Oakland might be able to keep their game flow in their favor, just by, pounding it with Marshawn Lynch and just running the ball as much as they can, and throwing in some, passes here and there. But the other passing game, I don't really trust. So that's more why I think the Bills have a better shot, because that Chargers team is just better than the Dolphins.
Yeah, I honestly think that the Chargers can get it. I mean, Oakland's offense has just not been. It's been. We were talking about this a couple weeks ago. We're like, we don't even know what they're trying to do on offense. It just looks like they're calling plays, and Derek Carr just says, "All right, get open," and then everybody does their thing. I mean, he's got 21 touchdowns on the years to 12 interceptions, 3,200 yards. I'm sure everybody's hoping for a much bigger year.
Right.
Marshawn Lynch hasn't even broken 800 yards yet, and their leading receiver is Jared Cook. You look at the Chargers with a much better defense. Philip Rivers has been doing really well this year. He's already passed 4,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Melvin Gordon has broke 1,000 yards. Keenan Allen, finally healthy all year, gets a 1,200-yard season. I mean, I just don't think Oakland's going to be able to stop the Chargers. I know that the Chargers do like to shoot themselves in the foot here and there. They can't really be trusted. The Chargers, can they be trusted?
They can't be
trusted. The Chargers cannot be trusted. However, I think that they have the more favorable matchup. We've seen that the Dolphins have looked. I mean, the Dolphins and Raiders have the same record, but I don't know. I feel like the Dolphins have been more competitive. I feel like, they had a big win against the Patriots a couple weeks ago. The Bills haven't really looked all that amazing on offense. Yeah, they're getting it done. They won 8 games this year so far. But man, I have a good feeling about the Chargers. It would be great to see the Bills win, though. I mean, this would be their first playoff appearance in how many years? 16 years or something like that. 22 years, something crazy, man.
That was the number I heard. I don't think they've been in the playoffs since I think it was like 96. So it's been a while. I would love to see the Bills just get in there, even though they would get creamed. Like, it'd just be nice. Just like, okay,
1999.
Yeah, that's what it was. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
But I'd also like to see the Chargers in there, because that at least the Chargers would actually be able to put up a fight against whoever they go against. The Bills, they would put up a fight, but it wouldn't be a fair fight. It'd kind of just be like we're putting up a fight because we want to do good. Chargers would put up a fight because they can do good. So
exactly. All the talent is there for the Chargers. If they can just get a good game plan and execute it properly, and really I think it comes down to the turnovers. Philip Rivers has been great this year at limiting his interceptions. He only has 10 this year, 25 touchdowns. A lot of times you see Philip Rivers with 15 interceptions or 12 interceptions, somewhere in the teens. He's known for that. That's the type of guy he is. He's a gunslinger, and when his team isn't performing, he says, well, screw it. I'm just going to do everything I can, and I'm going to take my shots. Doesn't always work out, but then again, the team around him isn't always in the shape to be competing. So this year, he really hasn't had to carry the team as much as he has had to in years past, although he still he still did amazing things for this team this year. I really hope they can get this spot. I would love to see Philip Rivers go back into the playoffs with a healthy Keenan Allen, Melvin Gordon healthy, their defense looking great these last 12 weeks. I mean, it would just be awesome to see.
And I think that would be great for Los Angeles too, just, for that city to see, okay, both of our football teams in their first year made the playoffs, while they're here. That's pretty sweet, So I would love to just see that and just, maybe see some of their fans finally show up, because they've been having a hard time with attendance all year. So maybe that will put some spark into their city. But it would be nice to just kind of give Philip Rivers a chance, because who knows if they'll be, good enough to win again enough games next year to get in the playoffs. So it would just be nice to just give him a chance, see what he can do, and because I'd love to see him win a ring. So long as he doesn't do it against
I think
the
everybody
Seahawks.
would.
So
I mean, he came into the league with Ben Roethlisberger, Eli Manning, and both of those guys have rings. That's the only thing they have over him.
Yep.
He's got all the stats. He's got all these touchdowns. He's got Pro Bowls. He just doesn't have a ring. And I think we'd look at him a lot differently if he had a couple of rings, or if Eli Manning had stayed in San Diego and he had gone to New York. Who knows who knows how we'd be looking at these guys. But I mean, you're looking at Eli Manning. That guy's dropping off. He
already has.
God awful this year. He's been terrible. Ben Roethlisberger has been showing his age. He's kind of making some questionable decisions this year, and seems to be really getting carried by a great offense. And then you have Philip Rivers, who's basically the same guy, throwing for a bunch of yards, a bunch of touchdowns, and a few interceptions. I mean, he's been doing this since he got into the league,
right.
And he's been consistent at that. But I mean, I don't know, man. I think we would be looking at differently a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, I agree. I really do think that just having that ring it would keep him from just being in that shadow of Eli and Ben, just in the sense of, like, we look at Eli and Ben and we talk about, they're Hall of Famers, even though, like, I think the Eli one is debatable, and you can crucify me for it, but I think it's debatable at least. But like,
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, Eli has the obviously probably the most signature moment in all of football, or at least modern era football, winning against the undefeated Patriots, with the 9-7 Giants. I mean, that was ridiculous.
9-7, and 10-6.
Yeah, they were 9. I think they were 9-7 coming into the playoffs as a wild card. They make it all the way to beat the Patriots, and that the helmet catch play is still like the most iconic play ever. I mean, he avoids 3 tackles and then throws it. David Tyree catches it on his helmet. Like, that's legendary, man. That's his legendary moment, and he has the rings, and he's got the stats because he's been in the league for so long. Never missed a game. I mean,
yeah, I think from like resume alone, he would probably be in. But when you look at, it's just so hard, because when I think of Hall of Fame quarterbacks, I think of like elite level quarterbacks. And Eli Manning never struck me as an elite level quarterback. He was just a solid QB for a while, but like, he's led the league in interceptions for so long. Like, he just throws pick after pick after pick, and it's just hard, He was fortunate enough to have some really good defensive talent earlier in his career, and that really helped him during that playoff run.
And a great last name.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. He has a great last name. Peyton Manning, you think of a Hall of Famer, you think of guys like Peyton Manning, you think of guys like Joe Montana, Steve Young, all these guys like that were like elite, like team carrying quarterbacks. And that's what the struggle for me is with Eli, is like, he can't, like, you're seeing it this year, all of a sudden his defense isn't as great. He's not getting as much help from people, and all of a sudden he can't carry the team. Like, it happens. And
yeah.
I mean,
the defense for him this year has been, oh, well, his top 3 wide receivers have been, or his top 2 wide receivers were out, and Sterling Shepard has been in and out. And it's like, yeah, and you'd expect a Hall of Fame quarterback to make do. I mean,
right.
Tom Brady had a great season thrown to guys like Aaron Dobson. Where's he now? Where's
Yeah.
Aaron Dobson? Is he even? He's not even on a practice squad anymore. He's out of the league. I mean, that's what Tom Brady's been doing. He's been thriving off of making everybody better around you. That's what you expect out of a Hall of Fame quarterback.
And he plays in a Hall
Eli
of Fame
Manning,
system too, so that helps.
well, sure, but I mean, he's still executing it to
Right.
perfection, essentially. Eli Manning has never been among probably I mean, I guess I don't have all the stats up in front of me, but he's never been a guy who's a top 3 quarterback in the league. He's never in contention for an MVP. He's never leading the league in touchdowns or yards or anything like that. He's never been the best quarterback in the league during any of the years that he's been in the league. I think that is what will keep him from being a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think he gets in eventually. I don't think it's going to be.
I think so too.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be first ballot. He's going to have a lot of guys to compete with. But I think he'll get in eventually. A few years down the road here when somebody puts together a real good highlight film of him, and it'll be good. It'll be good.
You have a hot Eli Manning mixtape.
But yeah, but yeah, Phillip Rivers. Unfortunately, he doesn't have those rings, so everybody kind of looks at him in a different light than I think is deserved. I mean, I think if he played for a better organization, I should say it's not deserved. The things people say about him. Well, he doesn't have a ring. He doesn't have an MVP. He doesn't have this. Doesn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at the Chargers. I mean, they had one of the greatest teams ever in 2005, and couldn't get it done because of poor coaching and terrible personnel decisions. And I mean, that organization is a joke. I mean, there's no secret about it. That's the reason why Eli Manning isn't there.
Yeah. It's tough because you like you said, like they really did have like one of the greatest teams put together. That Chargers team was so good. But I mean, you're right. It was that the ownership and the coaching staff, and it all just kind of fell apart. And you can see even today the ramifications of that, and the fact that they moved the franchise, and all this relocation stuff. Like that comes with meltdowns like that in the playoffs. You think 2005, like, oh, that was a while ago, but like in football time, it still feels kind of recent.
Well, yeah, the same guy as the quarterback now.
Yeah,
12 years ago, and they have the same quarterback.
Right.
It's a shame they couldn't, get it together earlier in the season. I think we could have, with the talent they have right now, they should be an 11-win team at least. I mean, they've dealt with some injuries, yeah, but their offense is dynamic. They have a great wide receiver and running back combo. They have wide receiver depth that Tyrell Williams makes some great plays here and there, and Hunter Henry and Antonio Gates have been money in the red zone, especially Gates, man. That guy is always money in the red zone.
Speaking of Hall of Famers.
Their defense... yeah, exactly. That guy, yeah. Their defense has some really good players on it still. I mean, this team should be a 10, 11, even maybe 12-win team if they start better, if they play better the first 6 weeks of the season. Be a different picture, but the Chargers very still much in the playoff picture for the AFC. For the NFC, Philadelphia, Minnesota, the Rams, Carolina, and Atlanta.
Everyone has clinched except for Atlanta. Everyone has clinched a playoff spot. Some have clinched their actual spot in the playoffs. But like I should say their seed in the playoffs. But the only team that hasn't clinched an actual playoff spot is Atlanta. because if Seattle wins, like I said earlier, if Seattle wins this weekend and Atlanta loses, then Seattle gets in the playoffs. So it's kind of it's all down to this.
It is all down to this. Seattle plays Arizona this weekend, and the Falcons play the Panthers. So Seahawks definitely have an easier matchup for this one.
Right.
They have to go against the Cardinals, who are sitting at 7-8. Have not been that great. I mean, Carson Palmer went out, what was it, week 4 or 5, something like that? 6?
It might have been even earlier than that.
No. He had almost 2,000 passing yards. To put it in perspective, he's still their leading passer. He has 1,978 passing yards, 9 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Adrian Peterson's their leading rusher with 448 yards, and Larry Fitzgerald, the timeless wonder, with 1,100-yard season, cranking out those 1,000-yard seasons, those 100-catch seasons. That guy's ridiculous, but I mean, the Cardinals, they really don't have anything to play for except they want to play spoiler. Of course, they've had Seattle's number the last couple of years. It seems like they've taken over the Jeff Fisher role of beating the Seahawks at the worst possible time and being a mediocre team at the same time. So Seattle has everything to play for in this game. I would expect them to come out and do everything they possibly can to win this game. I don't know if the Cardinals will come in with the same intensity. And then on the other side, the Falcons are playing the Panthers. Panthers are still trying to get a higher seed. The Falcons are trying desperately to get into the playoffs, but Carolina is a much better team than Arizona.
Right. And it's hard because I hate on Carolina all the time, and I have to weirdly root for them this week, even though, like, as I've stated many times, like, I root, the Seahawks are my team, but I also, I follow the Falcons closely and I root for them every week that they don't play Seattle. So, like, it's still this kind of hard week for me because I have to hope that the Panthers beat a team that I like, so that way the team I like the most can get in the playoffs. Like, it's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. Do you know if the Panthers are going to be sitting anybody? I would assume they're not because
as far as I know, they aren't.
Yeah,
because seriously, the best case scenario for them would guarantee them home field advantage for like 2 of the games, and maybe even more if Philadelphia gets knocked off. So this is still big for them. And it's kind of weird because Cam Newton has played better on the road than he has at home, so it might be better for them to just take the road games. But, like, I mean, realistically, you want that home field advantage. You want to play at home in the playoffs. So I think that they're not going to rest anyone unless the Falcons just start blowing them out. They're going to be like, okay, like, let's just take what we're going to get and call it good.
Yeah, I'm looking at just their season leaders, and definitely hasn't gone the way they hoped it to for either team. I mean, Matt Ryan has a lot of yards, 3,800 yards, but only 19 touchdowns, 12 interceptions.
And so
Cam Newton
I'm telling you, so much of that has to do with the fact that scheme is just garbage now with Steve Sarkisian in charge. Like, it's just so
absolutely
crap. Ugh.
Devontae Freeman isn't even at 900 running yards, and of course Julio Jones has right. Julio Jones has 1,300 receiving yards, almost 1,400 receiving yards, and that's pretty typical. I mean, He does that regardless of the scheme, it seems.
Yeah.
But I mean, Cam Newton's their leading rusher, and Devin Funchess is their leading receiver for the
Panthers.
And he doesn't even have 800 yards. Granted, he wasn't the clear-cut number 1 until a few weeks into the season, until Kevin Benjamin got traded. But I mean, Cam Newton's been all right this year. He has 3,100 passing yards with 21 touchdowns and 13 interceptions and almost 700 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns. I mean, that's a pretty solid year. Especially when you look at Matt Ryan, who has more yards and less touchdowns.
Right. And Cam Newton, he always puts up numbers, but it's never like it's hard to say. Like when you are watching the game, it's so much different with him. You look at his overall numbers and you think, oh, he had a pretty good season, but like he would go from having a great game to having just an absolute garbage game. He would throw like 11 for like 28 and like 100 yards and like 3 picks, and you're just like, what is happening? Like, what? It's you don't get a lot of like real consistency from the guy, other than just overall stats for the year. Like, and
he's definitely a boom or bust quarterback,
right? So I think that's kind of what keeps him out of those, elite quarterback talks, because he just doesn't do it consistently. The elite quarterbacks week in and week out, their floor is like 250 yards and a touchdown and a pick, and like that's like their like kind of bad game. Like, oh, I didn't do enough. Like those are the elite quarterbacks. You're putting up games where it's less than 150 passing yards and pick or two, maybe a touchdown. Like that's not elite. That's not how to be an elite quarterback. So it doesn't feel really good saying that, because as we said earlier, the Cowboys got eliminated by the Seahawks as far as playoff contention goes. But like really that was just so much of our defense, and the Cowboys shooting themselves in the feet over and over again. I mean, Russell Wilson didn't even throw for 100 yards. He threw 2 touchdowns. He didn't even throw for 100 yards. So I don't have like a ton of room to just be like, oh, my quarterback, I mean, granted, for pretty much the entire season, Russell Wilson carried the Seahawks. So like,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at his season stats and he's got 37, almost 3,800 passing yards with 32 touchdowns and 11 interceptions, and then 550 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. I mean, he's got over 4,000 yards of total offense, 35 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. I mean, and what's crazy is like he's got 3,700 passing yards. Doug Baldwin, our leading receiver, only has 900 of them.
I mean that's how much we've been spreading the ball around all year.
Yeah, you can't really tell who's going to be the. I mean, of course, Doug Baldwin's always going to be the number one guy on this team until he's replaced by somebody better than him or whatever, if that's possible, for the Seahawks to do. But yeah, Russell Wilson is he's definitely on that elite level, whereas Cam Newton is kind of like he has elite playmaking ability, but he doesn't always do it consistently.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely what he struggles with the most, is that consistent playmaking, which of all positions you need that pretty much 100% of the time with your quarterback. So
yeah. So why don't we get into our final predictions for the regular season for our matchups this week. There's quite a few games. There's I think it's all Sunday games. I don't think there's any.
I think there's a Thursday game. I might be wrong.
There? I don't think so. I'm not seeing any.
Oh.
Nope. All Sunday games.
Yep, all Sunday.
And there's also no Sunday night games. They're all going to be in the morning or in the afternoon. So they're going to wrap everything up pretty quick. So let's do the same. Let's see. First on my list, at least, is the Cardinals and Seahawks. We already talked about this a little bit. I expect the Seahawks to play with everything they've got this year, get that 10th win, and make their way into the playoffs.
Yep, I agree. I think that the Cardinals will definitely put up a good fight, but they don't have. I don't think they have enough talent.
They're in
right
Seattle
now.
too.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They're in Seattle, and Seattle doesn't lose a lot at home. they've lost more at home this year than they did for the last like 5 years straight. So combined. So
Right.
like I think Seattle's going to be fine in this game. I think Drew Stanton is not good enough to carry the Cardinals without any like really good running back talent. I just don't think that team is good enough right now to knock off a Seattle team that is desperate to get into the playoffs. So Seattle should win that game for sure.
All right, and then I got the Packers at the Lions. Packers are sitting at 7-8. The Lions are sitting at 8-7. Although Detroit doesn't have anything to play for, and they've been eliminated, I still think that they want to get one last win against the Packers this year while Aaron Rodgers is out, just because, I mean, let's be honest, with Aaron Rodgers, they really don't have that much of a shot, the Lions. So while they have Aaron Rodgers out this year, I think that the Lions are going to want to take out their frustration from missing the playoffs and execute well at the end of the year here, kill the Packers, and get a 9-7 year, and Packers at 7-9. I mean, I would just hate to be the Lions that lose against the Packers this week. So despite all of, Detroit's best efforts with like a healthy team and everything, they can only manage to do as well as the Packers without Aaron Rodgers for 12 weeks or whatever it was.
Right.
Like,
I think this is one of those pride games I was talking about.
Exactly. It'd be demoralizing for the Lions. And none of their players really seem like the kind of guys that become locker room cancers when the season's over, or when they're eliminated. They don't really seem to have guys like that. I think their locker room stays together, comes out for one last hurrah, beats the Packers, and that'll be all she wrote.
Yep, I agree. I think that Detroit comes out, takes this game, and enjoys their win while Aaron Rodgers is not playing.
All right, so the next up is a pretty crucial AFC South matchup between the Texans and Colts. Now, crucial that if the Texans win, it puts them up to 5-11, which would definitely affect their draft spot, while the Colts would move to 3-13. So, the thing to watch in this game is to see which team sucks the most. I mean, if I'm the Texans, I want to let the Colts win. Okay, and
do you though? Do you really want to have that on the resume? We were so bad we lost to the Colts. Like, that's pretty bad.
I mean, at this point, get that higher draft pick. You're only doing the Colts a favor if you beat them, because then you move down a spot and they stay where they are. If you lose, you move up and they move down. Simple math. I mean,
yeah,
they got nothing else to play for. Why not excuse me. Why not screw over a division rival?
Yeah, again, this is another, I think, pride situation where I think that they're going to need to they're going to need this like idea of like, yes, we didn't lose to the Colts in week 17, the terrible garbage Colts, we didn't lose to them, and that's at least something to hang our hats on. Have a good taste in your mouth going into the offseason, Like, I think the Texans are going to come out. I really do think either team could win just because both of them are really bad right now, and it's really just because the Texans have no quarterback. So,
man, it's crazy. Deshaun Watson is still their leading passer. I can't believe he had 19 touchdowns. That's so insane.
Yeah, well, he was a beast, so...
Yeah, that was craziness.
I think the Texans take this just with the run game alone, really. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I would expect the Texans to win. Just they have just a little bit more talent right now than the Colts do, even with all the injuries the Texans have had. So, yeah, I think that they're gonna. I think I read something that said that the Texans have had 77 players get injured this year, or they've used 77 different players, which is like an NFL record. It's ridiculous. So next up we have the Bears and Vikings. Bears are sitting at 5-10. Vikings are sitting at 12-13. 3. I'm going to obviously pick the Vikings. I think they're going to win this one handily. And they still have something to play for, They have a playoff seeding, so they want to win this game.
Yeah, this would lock in the 2 seed for them. So.
Yeah, I don't see the Bears coming out and winning this game for sure.
I don't either, but the Bears did shut down the Deshaun Kaiser-led Browns last week pretty hard. So
that's right.
They have shown their real capabilities on defense. So look for them to come out and try to play spoiler.
Yeah. Okay.
So
another game that's another game that's going to be pretty much about the same. Patriots against the Jets.
With Josh McCown, this is an actual game. Without Josh McCown, it is not a game. With Bryce Petty at quarterback for the Jets, this is not a game. This is the Patriots blowing them out pretty hard, and that'll be all she wrote.
That is what we would call the truth.
Yeah.
Or what we'd call Josh McCown.
Anyways, McCown, the truth.
So then we have the Redskins against the Giants. Redskins are hoping to win this game so they can get to 8-8, have a 500 season, which, all things considered, would be pretty good for them.
Yeah,
and the Giants the Giants have pretty much locked. If they lose this game, they're locked into the number 2 overall pick. I don't see the Giants winning this game, although it would be typical Giants to just win this game, and the Redskins, it'd be kind of typical Redskins to lose this game. So I'm going to pick the Redskins. I think that Kirk Cousins is going to shred that defense, and I don't think it's going to be not very fun to watch.
Well, and the fact that New York doesn't have Landon Collins for this game and Eli Apple got suspended for this game, I mean, that secondary's now just even less good than it already was. So I really think the Redskins should come out pretty good, pretty hot in this game.
Yeah, I would expect much of the same. The Giants are just a mess right now. They need to get into rebuilding mode here pretty soon. Or at least something. They need to get rid of Eli Manning. He's just so bad. Everybody their whole organization got ripped for taking him out, so they could see what they had in their other guys. But they haven't won a game since he came back.
Yeah,
they haven't looked
I think
competitive.
It's just one of those things where the team is already so bad that it's like, just let him finish out the season and, then just, move on from him in the offseason or something. But, this has been his team for so long that, there's no point in snapping the streak just to start Geno Smith and see, well, what do we have in Geno Smith? Like, what you have in Geno Smith. Like, he is a backup. There's not a lot of potential there. So
the damage is already done. They already snapped the streak. So
right.
It doesn't matter anymore. I don't know. It just seemed, it's just kind of stupid. But the Giants are probably going to lose this game. So we'll go into the other matchup for the NFC East, the Eagles against the Cowboys. Cowboys just got eliminated. And the Eagles are pretty much locked in for that number 1 seed, aren't they? I mean,
I think the only way they could lose it is if they lost and the Vikings won. I think the Vikings would, take it because of strength of schedule, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how that would work. They're obviously going to want to win this game, though. I mean, the Eagles are never going to pass up a chance to beat the Cowboys, regardless of play. Be pretty hilarious if the Cowboys lost too, because that would put them at 8-8, which is Jason Garrett's signature win-loss column at the end of the year, excluding last year where they went 13-3. So obviously next year they'll go 3-13 to balance things out.
Mm-hmm.
All jokes aside, I think that the Eagles are going to win this game. Obviously their offense isn't as dynamic with Nick Foles as it was with Carson Wentz, but they got the win last week against the Raiders. It was an ugly win, so hopefully they'll be able to use some of the tape of what they did wrong to kind of help guide them through this next game against the Cowboys, who have a lot of young talent, So, I mean, some of these guys aren't necessarily like bad, but they just are very young. They're still not. Their defense is in pretty much complete, other than Sean Lee. I would expect the Eagles to win this game, and give them a solid push into the playoffs. Get them a nice bye week to get them ready. Get Nick Foles ready. I definitely see the Eagles winning this game.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Cowboys are not really good enough at this point. Even with Ezekiel Elliott back, I don't trust their team enough right now to take out the Eagles, who always relish in the idea of beating the Cowboys. So Eagles should win this game pretty handily. And then the next game up should be the Browns and Steelers, which let's be real here, shouldn't be much of a game.
I mean, the Steelers could put their backups in, and I'm sure they'd still win this game against the Browns. At this point, I'm not even convinced that DeShone Kizer is a better quarterback than Landry Jones or Joshua Dobbs. So, I mean, probably better than Joshua Dobbs at least. That guy's god awful. I can't believe he even made their team. But I guess with Roethlisberger's injury history, I mean they've played third stringers before, Dennis Dixon. But yeah, Steelers are going to win this game, no question.
Yeah, it's I will not bet against the Steelers if they're going against the Browns. So game, then the big one.
Yeah,
I'll introduce this one here.
Oh yeah, you do that.
The big one here, the Panthers and Falcons game. This one's for all the marbles for Atlanta. I think that Atlanta at 9-6 has a very legitimate shot to take this game, just because they have, just like every game this year, they have the talent. They just need to put it together for 4 quarters and get it done. Like that really is all it is with the Falcons, because all of the talent is there. The problem is that the Panthers have a better coaching staff. They have a better defense, and they have an offensive coordinator that has some idea of what to do with his talent. Falcons do not. So I do think that the Panthers, as much as I really don't like the Panthers, I realistically think that they will take this game, just based off of, I think the Falcons might just get outcoached in this game.
Yeah, I hear you. Even though offensively the Panthers maybe haven't been spectacular, they've shown a lot of big playability, and they have shown that they want to get it to the guys that they're trying to get involved in the game. I mean, Christian McCaffrey's good for at least 6 catches a game.
Mm-hmm.
Funchess, they've been really attempting to get him involved in the games, except for, of course, the week to show up. I mean, yeah, I think a lot more talent on offense, and maybe even defense too. But yeah, you're right. They just do not have a coaching staff right now that will bring them to where they need to be, and it's unfortunate, because I would love to see the Falcons win against the Panthers, but I think that the Panthers are going to win this game. Their defense has just looked too good the last few weeks.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Panthers really should, just because of their defense alone, should be able to hold an offense ran by a high school caliber coach. I think they should be able to hold them in check. So Panthers should be okay in that one. And then the next game, Chiefs and Broncos. Chiefs are at 9-6. Broncos are 5-10. It doesn't matter for the Chiefs at this point. So the Chiefs might still be able to pull it out, just because the Broncos are pretty terrible. But with how many starters they're resting on offense, it should at least be a close game. Probably not very high scoring. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, am I allowed to predict that Mahomes will throw for like 600 yards? Because I mean, he did that at least once in college, so
I don't think
he had a
will
game
throw
where he
for
threw for like
600.
I don't know, man. I hope Andy Reid just goes full blown like air raid style with him and just gets him like 700 yards on the season. That'd be insane.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen against the Broncos defense.
No.
If they were playing against the Browns, maybe, but no, Broncos defense.
Oh man, I'd love that.
700 to a rookie. I think realistically, Mahomes probably throws for like 200 and a TD. Actually, he'll probably rush for a TD and probably throw a pick or two. It's not like a slouch defense. So
yeah, but the Broncos have kind of almost gone the same way as the Giants in that their locker room is kind of just like
right,
not in the greatest mindset right now. So I don't know. I'm gonna pick the Broncos. I just think that the Chiefs are sitting too many starters because they don't obviously have anything to play for. There's no reason to hurt or risk hurting those guys. And I think the Broncos are going to be able to take advantage of it. I mean, that even with all their starters, the Chiefs' defense hasn't been necessarily like great. So if they're or good, so without starters, I would guess that they look even worse. And I think that the Broncos can take advantage of that. So I'm going to take the Broncos in this one. Not because I think that they're a better team, but I mean, I think that their starters are better than the Chiefs' backups.
Yeah, I'm going to still say that the Chiefs take it just because Brock Osweiler is a terrible quarterback, and I just have no faith in him winning against a team that has any talent on it. I mean, he beat the Colts because the Colts don't have really any talent on that team. Meanwhile, the Chiefs do. Even their backups have talent, so I think the Chiefs could still find a way to pull it out with Mahomes. Or Mahomies, as some people call him. So next up, the Jaguars and Titans game. Gonna have to pick the Jaguars, assuming they don't rest anyone. I'm gonna have to go with them.
I don't think they will.
Yeah, I really, I don't know why they would rest starters at this point, but I mean, you never know. But I do think that the Jags take this game. I think Tennessee, even though they put up a really good fight against the Rams last week, I just don't see them with them already struggling in the passing game. At least in every game before last week, like I don't see it turning around against the Jaguars. Like they're just
yeah.
They're too good of a defense. It would really come down to just Blake Bortles making a lot of mistakes. That would maybe be how the Titans take advantage and win that game. But I don't. If Bortles just plays the way he has most of the season, I think that the Jags are fine.
I think you're right. I think your analysis is pretty spot on. The Rams defense is definitely not nearly as good as the Jags defense. So I would expect the Jags to come out. And of course, it's a divisional game, so they want to beat on the Titans. They have a little extra motivation there. So I'm going to take the Jags in this one.
Okay. As I said, I agree. Next game, the 49ers and the Rams. Rams are resting all their starters. So I think the Niners take this game pretty handily because they're not resting any of their starters, and Garoppolo has been great. So if I have to choose between Garoppolo and Sean Mannion and Malcolm Brown, I think I'm going to pick Garoppolo and Carlos Hyde.
Hey, man, Sean Mannion was a great quarterback at Oregon State, okay?
Yeah, at Oregon State. All those legendary Oregon State guys.
Yeah, I mean, there's like literally a dozen of them, maybe.
Yeah. Jaquiz Rogers.
Well,
really made a name for himself.
Yeah, that guy's still in the league.
Yep.
Marcus Wheaton.
Brandon Cooks.
I was going to say that, Brandon Cooks. Derek Anderson still in the league. I think Jordan Poyer's bouncing around some teams somewhere.
Storm Woods.
They got a couple.
Practice squad somewhere.
Storm Woods. Man, I remember I was like, man, this guy actually looks like he'll be all right. No, he's bad.
Yeah. What we're trying to say is that there's not a lot of legendary Beavers players out there, so don't bet on them.
Yeah, no, not so much. Yeah, I'm gonna say the Niners as well. They've been fire with Jimmy Garoppolo, so I think, especially with all the starters being rested for the Rams, the 49ers are gonna win one more game, secure a 6-win season, which, I mean, considering how it looked at the beginning of the year, is not bad.
Yeah, considering that they didn't have a win until week 13, 14 or whatever. It's it'd be good. It would be good for them. 6 wins on a season that was supposed to be pretty god awful. So, yeah, Niners should take this one. Next game, Bills and Dolphins. Again, I do think that the Bills take this game, even though the Dolphins beat the Patriots a couple weeks ago. The Dolphins aren't that good, and they don't really have anything to play for. And when Jay Cutler doesn't have motivation, you see his true colors. So,
hey man, they have all the motivation to keep the Bills, a divisional rival, out of the playoffs still. I mean, how great would it be, and completely petty, but just as a Dolphins player, to know that you were a part of keeping the Bills out of the playoffs for the 20th year in a row or 18th year in a row. I mean, that's great. Something. I mean, it's the players love to bag on each other and that kind of stuff. I could see the Dolphins coming out and playing hard just to try to.
It's not the Dolphins themselves I'm worried about. It's just Jay Cutler I'm worried about, because he doesn't really have that intense rivalry with the Bills. This is his only year that he played in even the same conference as the Bills. So I don't really think. Well, that's not true. He did play for the Broncos early in his career and then went to Chicago. But
yeah,
the Bills were not in his division when he was playing for the Broncos. So he doesn't have that fire against the Bills, they would have to really instill that into him for this last game for it to really matter for him.
I think they will. I think they're going to lock him in a room, brainwash style, and just
Pavlov him.
Show him all of these videos of Dolphins being beat by the Bills, or the Bills doing things, and I don't know. They'll instill it into him. And, yeah, just in general.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick the Dolphins just because I want the Dolphins to win this game, and I think it would be totally Bills to just lose this game. The one game that could get them into the playoffs, and they lose it. I mean, that's just textbook Buffalo Bills, man.
Yeah, I could see it happening, but I think that the Bills are going to want it enough, and LaShawn McCoy is going to go nuts and destroy them again. So I am picking the Bills. You are picking the Dolphins, and that's that. Last games. Go ahead.
Oh, never mind. I was gonna make a really crappy pun, but we can continue. It's probably better anyway.
So the next game, the last handful of games here, pretty much no-brainers. But the Chargers and Raiders, I think it's pretty clear that the Chargers win this game unless Phillip Rivers has some 3 interception game. I think the Chargers want it. They want the playoff berth, and the Raiders just are too inconsistent all over the place with their team. So Chargers should win this one pretty handily.
Indeed, I agree. Nothing to add.
All right, next game, Cardinals and Seahawks. Again, we kind of already talked about. We already talked about that one. That was the first game we talked about. So,
the only games that we haven't talked about are the Bengals and Ravens, and the Saints and the Bucks.
Yeah, so Saints and Bucks should be kind of a gimme. Saints should win that one pretty easily. The Bucks are pretty garbage. I mean, they tried as much as they could last week against the Panthers, but they had a great fourth quarter collapse and had a couple really bad turnovers. So I do think that the Saints take this one pretty easily.
Yep, I would agree with you. They're just going to
Saints are just going to run all over them. I mean, their defense is the Buccaneers defense is bad. I mean, and Mark Ingram and Kamara have been lightning and thunder. I mean, lightning and more lightning. I don't know what to call them, man. They need some kind of duo name, but they've just been ridiculous this year. So, I definitely still see the Saints beating on the Buccaneers, and then Ravens versus the Bengals. This is I mean, the Ravens pretty much already have a playoff spot. I think as long as they win this game, for sure they have a playoff spot. I don't know what all the different scenarios are if they lose, but I don't think it matters. I think they're going to win this game.
Yeah, and even if
against the
they
Bengals.
lose, I just don't think that. I mean, for them to get knocked out of a playoff spot, they would have to. I think the Titans would have to win. But even then, I don't know how that would affect things. So
yeah, I don't know for sure. I think that all three of the 6 seed teams right now would have to win. Tennessee, Chargers, and Buffalo. If they all won, I think there's probably some kind of scenario where the Ravens drop out or something. Although that is interesting because if Baltimore loses, that would, and the other 3 win, that would put all 4 of them at 9-7, and then who
Right.
gets in?
I think it's just a strength of
Don't
schedule
really
thing
know.
at that point. I don't know who would win that one. I think the Titans have the strength of schedule. If I'm just thinking about the games that they've played this year, I think they have the strength of schedule, but I could be wrong.
I would
either
guess
way-
Buffalo. I mean, Buffalo's
maybe
played
Buffalo.
New England twice. They played the Chargers. They've played Miami. Nobody in there. I mean, the Jets were a 5-win team. I mean, you look at Baltimore. They play Cleveland and Cincinnati this year. They've had an easier schedule.
Cincinnati's a 6-win team, so I mean, that's
Yeah, and Cleveland's 0-15.
right.
The worst
that's
team in
the killer,
the
is
division for-
Cleveland ones.
I mean, the worst team in the division for Buffalo is New York at 5-10, and then Miami's right there at 6-9, and and then New England's 12-3. I just think that based on strength of schedule, I would guess that Buffalo probably has the harder schedule.
Yeah, probably.
Although I don't, and then Tennessee obviously has 2, under 5-win teams in their division. And the best team in their division only has 10 wins. So, but I don't really know how that all works off the top of my head without doing a bunch of research, and I don't have space in my brain for that right now. But either way, I'm going to take the Ravens in this one against the Bengals. I just don't think the Bengals are kind of trash nasty.
Yep.
They'll go 6-10. So yeah, that's all the games for this week. Like I said, there's no obviously there's no Monday night game and there's no Sunday night game. So we're left with pretty much everything wrapping up at the end of the day. Around 5 o'clock or so, everything should be decided. So it's exciting. There's still some seeding left, as well as the sixth seed in the AFC is still up for grabs, so that'll be an interesting game to keep. Those will be interesting games to keep an eye on. A lot of excitement, that's for sure.
Yeah, basically, if you want to know what games you really should watch, basically just watch the Buffalo game, watch Titans game, watch the Seahawks game, and watch the Panthers game. Those are basically the big games you want to watch. Maybe the Chargers game. But pretty much all the rest of them, there's not much going on as far as like big time stuff. So
For sure.
Those are the good ones. So with that in mind, that is going to wrap up the podcast. So thank you all for tuning in and watching and listening. If you made it this far, even after the, I'm sure lots of weird audio things happening, I appreciate it. I appreciate anyone who made it this far. And if you did, comment and tell us who you think will get into the final playoff spots.
Yeah, do it. Let's hear your predictions. Yeah, I mean, So this is our last podcast for the regular season. Obviously, we'll do some for the playoffs and into the Super Bowl. I just want to thank everybody who's listened to us throughout these last. Gosh, how many? When did we start? We started week 4, right?
It was
So
week
this'll be-
4, I think.
So this will be our 13th, I think, or either way. I appreciate everyone who's watched and supported us. This has been a lot of fun for me, and I know it's been a lot of work for Isaiah, but he's getting it done. And just want to give a shout out to everybody who's helped us out. Whether it's just supporting us or watching our videos, just thank you for that. We'll be doing these as often as we can for the postseason and into the off season. So we'll see you next week, and hopefully everybody has a great New Year's.
Yep, happy Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And thank you for watching the Philbrook Football Podcast.
See you next year. I said it. Next year, get it.